You know all those alarms going off in your life, right? Deadlines, relationships, the news. It can get so loud it feels impossible to think. Well, in this explainer, we're going to dive into some real, practical tools for turning down that volume. And the key is, we're not talking about ignoring the alarms, but learning how to actually tune them.
Okay, let's just jump right in with what might be the single most important idea we're going to talk about. This quote, it reframes everything. Get this, your nervous system isn't the enemy. It's a bodyguard who just needs better intel. Think about that for a second. Your anxiety isn't a flaw, it's not a weakness, it's just a well-meaning, but maybe a little overzealous bodyguard. So our job isn't to fire this guy, right? It's to give him better information so he can finally tell the difference between a real threat and a false alarm. All right, so that brings us to our first section, a bodyguard, not a villain. We're really going to focus on how to change our relationship with these feelings to stop seeing them as the bad guy. And this is so important. The whole point here isn't to just eliminate anxiety entirely. I mean, let's be real, that's not possible. And honestly, it's not even helpful. Some alarms are actually good for us. They're the things that tell you, hey, maybe study for that test, or you should probably look both ways before you cross the street. The real skill, the thing we're trying to build, is learning how to listen and figure out which alarm is which. Is this something I need to act on? Is this one I just need to tune down a bit? Or is this a total false alarm that I can just switch off? Okay, on to section 2, your body's alarm system. Let's peek under the hood a little bit. We're not going to get lost in a biology lesson, I promise, but it's super helpful to understand why you feel what you feel.
So here's the deal, biologically speaking. Deep inside your brain, you've got this little thing called the amygdala. Think of it like a super sensitive smoke detector. The moment it thinks it senses a threat, and it doesn't matter if it's real or just perceived, it yanks the fire alarm. And that floods your body with adrenaline and cortisol. You know that feeling, the racing heart, the shaky breath, the clenched muscles. That's not you failing. That is your body doing exactly what it's supposed to do to prepare you for danger. It's a survival circuit that's been wired into us for thousands and thousands of years.
And this brings up a really key distinction, because we use anxiety and stress like they're the same thing, but they're not. Anxiety is the alarm itself, that sudden jolt, that feeling of, oh no. Stress is the total load on your system. I love this analogy. Think of stress as all the things you have plugged into one power strip. Your job, your family, money worries, not getting enough sleep. That's the load. Anxiety is the circuit breaker that trips because the load is just way too high. Okay, section 3. Your immediate relief toolkit. The theory is great and all, but what do you do when the alarm is blaring right now, in the moment? Let's get into some tools you can use immediately. All right, this is your first line of defense, and trust me, it's so effective. First, you just name it. Out loud or in your head, just say, I'm noticing anxiety. Saying it creates this little bit of space, it gets the thinking part of your brain back online. Next, police it. Put a hand right where you feel it, your chest, your stomach, wherever. This brings the feeling out of your head and grounds it in your body. And finally, pace your breathing. The real magic here is the exhale. Make it longer than the inhale. In for 4, hold for 4, but breathe out for 6 or even 8. That long exhale is a direct message to your nervous system that says, hey, the danger's over, you can stand down.
Now, what if your mind is just a tornado of what-ifs? You've got to get out of your head and back into the room. This 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique is like an emergency brake for a spinning mind. It literally forces your brain to stop looping on those anxious thoughts and pay attention to what's right here, right now. You're yanking yourself out of that mental storm and planting your feet firmly back on the ground. It's so powerful. Okay, next up, section 4, building daily resilience. Because those emergency tools are crucial, but the real game changer, it's the daily maintenance. This is how you prevent the false alarms from going off in the first place. And it all starts with the absolute #1 non-negotiable, sleep. Seriously, sleep isn't a luxury, it's basically medicine for your nervous system. And consistency is everything. Try to wake up at the same time every day, even on weekends. It works wonders. Oh, and I love this trick, the worry pad. If your brain just won't shut off at night, get a notepad. Write down everything you're worried about. Close the book and tell your brain, okay, we'll deal with this tomorrow. You're basically outsourcing the worry. Next up, movement and what you let into your brain. Moving your body isn't about punishing yourself at the gym. It's about chemistry. It helps your body physically complete the stress response that your brain kicked off. But just as important is managing your inputs. Your nervous system is listening to everything, every push notification, every scary headline. So curating your digital world isn't about being ignorant. It's about protecting your peace. It's digital hygiene.
Which leads us perfectly to this idea of boundaries. And wow, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? Protect your peace like property, because it is. Your calm, your mental space, your energy, that is a finite resource. It's valuable. And just like any other valuable property, it needs a fence. And that's what boundaries are.
So what does that look like? Well, the trick is to have the words ready to go before you need them. Have these simple scripts in your back pocket. Anxiety just loves it when things are vague and confusing, right? But these clear, simple statements, they cut right through that. You don't have to explain yourself or apologize. A simple, firm sentence is one of the most powerful tools you have. All right, our final section, your plan, starts today. Let's pull all these ideas together into a simple plan you can literally start doing right now. So this is what it can look like in real life. And just look at how small and achievable all of this is. We're not talking about a massive life overhaul tomorrow. We're talking about weaving these tiny nervous system calling habits into your day. A couple of minutes of breathing, saying no to just one thing that drains you. These little things, they add up. They build a real foundation of resilience over time.
Okay, but we have to talk about a really important question. These tools are amazing, they're powerful, but they're not always enough. Sometimes your bodyguard, as tough as they are, needs to call for backup. So how do you know when it's time to make that call?
Here are some really clear signposts. If the anxiety just isn't letting up, if it's getting in the way of your life, your work, your sleep for more than a couple of weeks, or especially if you're having thoughts of self-harm, that is the signal. That's when it's time to seek professional support. And I want to be really clear about this. There is absolutely zero shame in asking for help. It is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of incredible strength. It's just you bringing in a specialist to give your bodyguard some better training and some new tools.
Look, if you only remember one thing from this entire explainer, please let it be this. You're not broken. You're just overloaded. You are not a broken machine. You are a human being with a nervous system that is doing exactly what it evolved to do. It's just doing it under a totally overwhelming modern load. And that distinction is everything. Broken means something's wrong with you. Overloaded means the circumstances are too much. And you know what? Circumstances can be changed. And so we'll end here. On those days when it all feels like way too much, when you can't remember any of the fancy techniques or scripts, just come back to this. Breathe, drink some water, step outside for a minute, repeat. These are the absolute fundamentals. Give your body a signal of safety. Give it some resources. Reconnect with the real world. Sometimes that's more than enough. And you can always, always start again.